We are hoping that you are already settled for us to continue our discussion today. And our group wants to get already your papers and ball pen for you to take down notes of the important details or points that we have mentioning later. But before anything else, I just want to introduce first our group members and our group name. So I myself, Narjana M. Salik, followed by Ella Joyce Pascual, Angela Cahayon, Naila Nabadtog, Sarah Ibrahim, Norhata Di Salungan, Yiman Gisulga, Nada Panalandang, Bayhasa Nabakar, Alea Sarhan Abpet, Angelica Tabanaw, and Haima Makarimbang. So why our group choose the name PROKARYOTIC Empire? It's because all of us are aiming to be success in today's discussion. And then Prokar is something that belong in our topic. So as you observe, I am wearing white cloth. Not just only me, but all of us are wearing white cloth. It's because we are representing a good bacteria. Yes. So QT, according to the new trend today, is something that you want to achieve. So that's why our group are aiming not just only to be success in today's discussion, but we are aiming that our co-classmates can easily gain knowledge about our topic. And then empire is defined as because we are the group that has a power to discuss or explain our assigned topics, which is prokaryotic cells. But before we proceed, we prepared some palaro to motivate you in our topic. So this motivation is distributed to us by Miss Angela Cahayon.
Hi guys, it's me and my Jowawa, Charla. So good afternoon. So during afternoon, we always tend to fall asleep and we easily lose our interest. So I am here to get it back. So I have prepared a simple game to boost your energy. So handa na ba kayo? Kasi kung handa na kayo, ako hindi pa. Char, tawa-tawa din pag may time. So anyways, our game is called Bring Me But with a Twist. So here's for our instruction. So I am going to give you a letter that is connected with our topic, and you're going to guess it but with a twist. So first is, you will need to bring me first an object that starts with the given letter, and next is you give the word that is associated with our answer. So since nabago na po yung ways ng pagre-report is, pwede nyo po siya ilagay niyan sa Microsoft Word and then ipasa niyo po sa hand through PM and through Gmail. So this will serve as your quiz, guys. So sana po magpasa kayo kasi graded po to. Okay? So for example is, yung given letter natin is letter C. So for letter C is we have object, cell phone. And then word that is associated with our topic, which is prokaryotic cell, is cell wall. So for our first letter is letter R. So 8 letters. So what is the object that starts with letter R? R pala, R. I'm so sorry, it's my fault. Kasalanan ko. So what is the object that starts with letter R? So syempre, ruler. And then, ilalagay niyo po yung picture sa Microsoft Word. Pwede po siya Google and pwede din own picture na kinuha niyo, diba? R, ruler, and then ribosome. Okay? So, ribosome is tasked with synthesizing proteins. Therefore, they are known as the protein factory of the cell. So, the word rib is derived from the ribonucleic acid or RNA, which provides the instruction on making proteins. Okay? Sana by now, nakuha ko na yung interest nyo. Please lang. So, for our second letter is letter P. So, letter P. Bakit kaya madami? So, it can be 7 words, 14 7 letters, 14 letters, and 5 letters. So, okay. Object that starts with letter P, ano kaya? Pens. Okay, pens. And the word is, pwede nyo siya i-post para makaano kayo. Again guys, yung presentation is, pwede nyo i-post para makathink kayo ng word na associated sa ating topic. It can be plasmid, prokaryotic cell, pilus, or pili. So, pilus is for singular, while pili or pili, pilus or pili, as it is attached to the cells to surface. It attached the cells to surface. So, prokaryotic cell naman is, it has a cell wall like plants do. So, later on, it will be discussed by the next group, the eukaryotic. I think dun siya connected, if I'm not mistaken. Then, plasmid is, it can be found on all 3 major domains, which is archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Okay? Next letter is letter F. So, anong object kaya ang nasa letter F? So, I have here face mask. Face mask. So, what is the word that starts with letter F that can be associated with our topic? It is 9 letters or pwede ring 8 letters. Flagellum and flagella. Flagella is the plural, while flagellum is singular. So, it can be seen easily with the electron. So guys, this is just a simple fact, okay? Kasi later on, it will be discussed by my group mates. So, I don't want to spoil you naman po, no? Next letter is letter C. So, it is composed of 9 letters. So, letter C, cotton. And the word that is associated is cytoplasm. So, cytoplasm is 80% of the cytoplasm is the water. Diba? Amazing? Sana all. Last letter is letter B. So, letter B. Oh my God, I don't have a letter B. Oh, I have. Letter B with the coins pa siya inside. Letter B. So, and the word that is associated with our topic is bacteria. It lacks a nucleus and membrane-bound organelle. So, that's it for our motivation. I hope you learned something and you are motivated. And I hope nakuha ko yung interest nyo. I'm so sorry po sa boys, okay? Kasi masakit lalamunan ko. So, now let's move on to Miss Disalungan. She will be presenting our objectives.
So let's proceed to the objectives. Learning objectives are brief statements that describe what learner will be expected to learn by the end of the lesson. So first, to identify the structure of a typical cell. Second, to know the function of each part of the prokaryotic cell. Third, to identify the type of prokaryotic cell. Fourth, to know the importance of prokaryotes and the human body. And the last one is to identify why cell is the basic unit of life for all organisms.
Hi, it's me again. Sana di kayo magsawa sa pagmumukha at boses na to. So, we already identified our topic. The next thing that we need to do is to define our topic. So, what is our topic again? Prokaryotic cell. So, what is prokaryotic cell? So, prokaryotic cell derived from the Greek words for nucleus and Tagalog, bagong kernel or bagong nut. It is a unicellular organism. So, what comes first in your mind when you hear the word unicellular? Diba? It is made up of one cell. So unicellular organism is made up of only one cell that carries out all the functions needed by the organisms, including bacteria, protists, and yeast. Okay? So, unicellular, tandaan, one cell. So, prokaryotic cell has 9 parts. So, which is capsule, cell wall, plasma membrane, and cell membrane. Plasma membrane and cell membrane is considered as one. Plasmid, nucleoid, cytoplasm, ribosome, pilus, and flagellum. Okay? So, para maintindihan natin or mas madali nating ma-memorize yung 9 parts is may ginawa ako. So, kung anong ginawa ko, let's find out.
Bored ka na ba sa buhay mo? At the same time gusto mong matuto? This is the perfect life hack for you. Cucumber, noodles, thumbtacks, and the listing thing. First is the cucumber. The whole cucumber itself is the capsule. Next is the noodles. Noodles dito sa gilid is the plasma membrane. Next is the thumbtacks. The thumbtacks is our ribosome. We're gonna put it here and the gilid. So here's the outcome. Next is the cell wall. The cell wall is yung balat ng cucumber. Ito, cell wall. Next is the nucleoid. Nucleoid is yung noodles inside. Ito siya. Nucleoid. Ayan. Nucleoid. Next is our pilus. Ito, pilus. Ito, pilus. The listing thing. Pero pag madami na siya, it is called as pili or pili. The plural. Guys. So, ayan po. Next is the flagella or flagellum. Okay. This is the flagellum. If it is single strand. Pero if it is madami, it is called as flagella. Next is plasmid. The noodles na nakahiwalay sa loob. Ito. Ayan, plasmid. Next is cytoplasm. The space inside. Ito. So, that's it. I hope natuto kayo and I hope natulungan ko kayo para mas madali nyong ma-recognize and ma-memorize yung mga parts ng prokaryotic cell. Again, let's have a recap. The whole cucumber itself as the capsule. Ribosome as the thumbtacks. Then cell wall is yung balat ng cucumber. And then nucleoid is the noodles inside. And then plasma membrane is the noodles sa gilid. And the listing thing is the pili. Pag madami is pilus singular plural. I mean mali. Pilus is singular, pili is plural. Next is flagella. Pag single strand is flagellum. Pag madami, plural is flagella. Next is plasmid, the noodles inside na nakahiwalay. Next is cytoplasm, the space inside. And that's it. Happy learning!
Prokaryotic cell has 2 domains, which is bacteria and archaea. So first, we're gonna discuss the archaea. It will be discussed by Miss Abet.
Archaea. It can be spherical, lobe, rectangular, or irregular in shape. Unusual flat, square-shaped species that lives in salty pools has also been discovered. Some exist as single cells, others form filaments or clustered. Until the 1970s, this group of microbes was classified as bacteria. It is a group of microorganisms that are similar to, but evolutionarily distinct from bacteria. Most of the archaea are found living in an extreme environment such as extremophiles. To sum up everything, archaea is one of the domain of prokaryotics. Archaea, also known as extremophils, that lives in condition of extreme temperature. For example, in acidic place, acidophils, it is a kind of organism that can almost live in acidic environment. It is an example of Archaea. Some examples are thermophils, a microorganism with the optimal growth temperature between 60 and 18 degrees Celsius can still live in a volcanic vent. So, pinakailalim na ng volcano. So, and another one is psychrophils. It's a microorganism capable of growth and reproduction in a cold temperature. So, snow. Yes, there's still an Archaea there. Another is halophils. Yes, as a microorganism that live in an environment that has a high salinity concentration of salt. So, what is the biggest difference of bacteria and archaea kung bakit pa ba siya nakaseparate? Because normal bacteria cannot survive in this kind of extreme conditions. So, ibig sabihin, si archaea is a tiny single-celled organism which cannot be seen by naked eye. So, relative size of it is mitochondria, and that's why it is we can easily enter the eukaryotics. So, the relative size of it is at 0.125 micrometers units length. And also, it is classified before as a bacteria, but because of uniqueness of it classified as archaea. Yes, it is a relatively new classification of the life initially proposed by Carl Woese. He is an American biologist in 1977. And for the structural, some archaea have a lipid monolayer instead of lipid bilayer. And for the structural, yes, some archaea have a lipid monolayer instead of lipid bilayer. It also turns out that as a monolayer, as well as some other structural difference in the membrane, can be used in surviving in those extreme environments. You also find a unique cell wall in archaea. Archaea cell wall can be very diverse, but they don't have these large polymers called peptidoglycan. But archaea can have pseudopeptidoglycan, though it's little confusing, but it has a different chemistry to it. So meaning, the uniqueness of absence of peptidoglycan in archaea has a replacement of absence. So it is a pseudopeptidoglycan, such as polysaccharides, glycoprotein, or even pure protein.
Bacteria. Bacteria are thought to have been the first organisms to appear on Earth about 4 billion years ago. The oldest known fossil are bacteria-like organisms. Bacteria can cause most organic and some inorganic compounds as food, and some can suffer extreme conditions. And a growing interest in the function of the gut microbiome is shedding new light on the roles bacteria play in human health. Some bacteria are harmful, but most serve a useful purpose. They support many forms of life, both plants and animal, and they are used in industrial and medicinal processes too. Bacteria are single-cell organisms that neither plants nor animals. They usually measure a few micrometers in length and exist together in communities of millions. A gram of soil typically contains about 400 million bacterial cells. A milliliter of fresh water usually holds about 1 million bacterial cells. The Earth is estimated to hold at least 5 nonalien bacteria, and much of the Earth's biomass is thought to be made of bacteria. There are many different types of bacteria. One way of classifying them is by shape. I will give the 3 basic shapes, okay? 1 is a rolled shape, 2 is vertical, and 3 is a spiral. And bacteria structures are very different from plants and animal cells. Bacteria are prokaryotes, which means they have no nucleus. Bacteria can be found in soil, water, plants, animals, radioactive waste, deep in the Earth's crust, Arctic ice, and glaciers, and even in a hot spring. There are bacteria in the stratospheres between 6 and 30 miles up in the atmosphere, and in the ocean's deeps, down to 32,800 feet or 10,000 meters deep. Bacteria are often thought of as bad, but many are helpful.
We would not exist without them. The oxygen we breathe was probably created by the activity of bacteria. Many of the bacteria in the body play an important role in human survival. Example is bacteria in the digestive system break down nutrients, such as complex sugars, into forms the body where we can use it as a form of energy. And yes, bacteria is very vital in our industry and research because bacteria can break down organic compounds. This is useful for activities such as waste processing and cleaning up oil spills and toxic waste. Because our the pharmaceutical and chemical industries use bacteria in the production of certain chemicals also. Because bacteria are used in molecular biology, biochemistry, and in genetic research also. Because they can grow quickly and relatively easily to manipulate. Scientists use bacteria to study how genes and enzymes works too. And the history of this bacteria is because over 200 years ago, there's a Roman author, Marcus Terentius Varro, that suggested that this is maybe caused by the tiny animals that float in the air. He also advised people to avoid marketplace during building works because they might contain insects too small for the eye to see that entered the body through the mouth and nostrils and cause diseases. But later on, in the 17th century, a Dutch scientist, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, created a single-lens microscope, which he saw what he called animalcules, later known as the bacteria. He is considered to be the first microbiologist.
Bacillus acidophilus is a bacteria that lives in our intestines. A bacterium that belongs to the Lactobacillus genus plays a significant function in human health. Its name suggests what it produces, lactic acid. It accomplishes by creating an enzyme known as lactase. Escherichia coli, usually known as Escherichia coli, a type of bacteria that generally dwells in the intestines of both human and animals. Most of the time, this bacteria not harmful. It aids in the digestion's blood. Certain strains of Escherichia coli, on the other hand, can cause symptoms such as diarrhea, stomach pain, and cramps, and low-grade fever. Streptococcus pneumophilis is a lactic and bacteria that is utilized in the commercial manufactures of milk, cheese, and the other dairy products. This organism is a thermophilic gram-positive bacterium that grows at 45 degrees Celsius. Streptomyces are major groups of actinomyces soil. Bacteria Streptomyces are gram-positive aerobic bacteria that have a complicated structure. A majority they create like knit known as mycelium, which carries spore chains.
So first, in the parts and structures of the prokaryotic cells is the capsule. So most prokaryotic cells can have what we call capsule or slime layer outside the bacteria or the cell wall. It provides protection to the cell and it allows the cell to stick to other surfaces and to other cells. It is made up of polysaccharides. So what is polysaccharides? Polysaccharides is a large molecule consisting of hundreds and hundreds of smaller monosaccharides. So monosaccharides are simple sugars like glucose, and special enzymes bind them together to create a large sugar polymer, or that is what we call the polysaccharides. Remember that the function of the capsule is to provide protection to the cell, and also it allows the cell to stick to surfaces, and it also protects the cell from different dangers such as phagocytosis and desiccation or dehydration of the cell. It prevents the cell from drying out. So next is the cell wall. So most prokaryotic cells can have what we call cell wall. It lies just outside the plasma membrane and it gives strength and rigidity to the cell. It is made up of a substance called peptidoglycan. So what is peptidoglycan? Peptidoglycan is a murine, it's also known as murine, which is a polymer consisting of sugars and amino acids that forms a mesh-like layer outside the plasma membrane. The function of the cell wall is to provide structural support by maintaining the shape of the cell. So next to the subtopic will be discussed by Angelica Tabanao.
Thank you. Good morning everyone. I am Angelica Tabanao, and for today I will also be explaining the other parts of a prokaryotic cell. So number 3, plasma membrane. It is a lipid bilayer that surrounds the cytoplasm of a prokaryotic cell. So here in the illustration given, we can clearly see the light yellow or the yellow layer is the plasma membrane, wherein, sabi ko kanina, it surrounds the cytoplasm of a prokaryotic cell. So later, the cytoplasm will be explained by my co-reporter. So it is a structure that serves as permeability barrier. So when we say permeability barrier, it formed by lipids that separates one environment through another or through another. So to sum it up, the plasma membrane physically separates the cell from its external environment. Kaya nga tinawag siyang barrier. So let me repeat. The plasma membrane physically separates the cell from its external environment. That's why tinawag siyang permeability barrier. So for the function, it helps in the locomotion of the cell. So when we say locomotion of the cell, it is the movement or the ability of the cell to move or propel itself from one place to another. So in what way kaya nakakatulong ang plasma membrane sa movement or locomotion ng isang cell? So one method, we call it diffusion. So diffusion, it is the movement of organism from a higher region of concentration to one of the lower concentration. So let me repeat. The function of the plasma membrane is to help in the movement of the cell through the method diffusion. I just want to add din na function din ng plasma membrane, it receives and sends information that allows cell to communicate or talk to each other by the proteins that the plasma membrane has. So let me repeat. The other function of the plasma membrane is that it receives and sends information that allows cell to communicate or talk to each other by the means of the proteins that the plasma membrane has. Another parts of a prokaryotic cell is the plasmid. So plasmid is a small rings, double-stranded extra-chromosomal DNA, or it is outside the chromosome. So here in the illustration, we can see the nucleoid. So the nucleoid, it houses the DNAs of a prokaryotic cell. So those DNAs are the plasmid and the chromosome. So here in the illustration, we can clearly see the difference between the two. Plasmid is a small rings double-stranded extra-chromosomal DNA, gaya na sabi ko kanina, and the chromosome is well-organized thread-like structure. So when we say thread-like, sinulid po siya, parang sinulid. Pero kahit po ganun siya, nakikita natin dyan sa illustration na bull-bull siya, well-organized po siya kasi nga po ganun po ang structure ng chromosome. So it is a genetic material. So bakit nga po ba genetic material siya? Because it carries genetic information, includes the control, reproductive, the movement, the behavior, and the development of a prokaryotic cell. So second, it is non-chromosomal DNA. So, bakit nga ba non-chromosomal DNA siya? Gaya ng sabi ko kanina, magkaiba ang plasmid sa chromosome. For yung plasmid, double-stranded extra-chromosomal DNA that do not, take note ha, do not provide or encode any information for making proteins. So, wala pong proteins na kinicarries ang plasmid, which is kabaliktaran ng chromosome, that the chromosome is the well-organized thread-like structure wherein the genomic DNA is tightly coiled with proteins. So take note yung pinagkaiba po ng dalawa. Okay, let me repeat. Sorry po kung medyo maingay, marami po nagpapaputok. So let me repeat. The plasmid is the double-stranded extra-chromosomal DNA wherein it do not provide or encode information for protein processes, while the chromosome, the genomic DNA is tightly coiled with proteins. So for the function, it will be explained by Ate Alea Abet.
So we know that the plasmid is a small extra chromosomal DNA molecule. So let's go into functions of it. Function of it is no autonomous space in the circulate DNA that can be able to transfer between the bacteria, also known as horizontal chain transfer. So what it is? So ibig sabihin ito, only plasmid can able to carry antibiotic resistance genes and spread them in the whole human or animal body.
So let us proceed to the nucleus. A nucleus is a containing region within the cytoplasm. Why? Because the nucleus is floating around the cytoplasm because there is no membrane-bound nucleus. Not unlike the eukaryotic have a membrane-bound nucleus. In short, the nucleus is lack protective membrane. So the nucleus is genetic material presented because the nucleus, meaning nucleus-like, is a regular shape within the prokaryotic cell that contains all or most of the genetic material. That's why the nucleus is have a genetic materials presented. So also, nucleus is consists of genophore and circular DNA strands. Why? Because of the genetic materials is referred to as a genophore. A genophore is the bacterial chromosome. It has a double-stranded circular supercoiled DNA, and it consists of circular DNA because it mostly composed of multiple compacted copies of DNA in continuous thread. With the additional of the RNA protein and enzymes that can be used for cellular processes. In short, meaning it has a twist in the circular shape that makes it more compact as the cell grow, and the DNA in the nucleus may extend into the cytosol or cellular fluid. So the function of nucleus is help controlling the activity of the cell and reproduction. It is where transcription and replication of the DNA taken place. So let us proceed to the cytoplasm. A cytoplasm is the region where the chromosome, or also called DNA, ribosome, and various inclusion are founded. They are all scattered in the cytoplasm as a ribosome, which is the sites of the protein. Take note of this. The cytoplasm in the prokaryotic cells lack membrane-bound organelles like the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, and lysosome that presented it in the eukaryotic cells. A cytoplasm is also mainly composed of the enzymes, salt, cell organelles, and is a gel-like components. It is the gel-like substance enclosed within the cell membrane. Tingnan nyo lang din sa illustration, which is made of the water, protein, lipids, nucleic acid, inorganic salt, and etc. The enzymes of several major metabolic pathways are located within the cytoplasm and contains a cell structure such as ribosome, chromosome, and plasmid. It provides a platform upon which other organelles can cooperate within the cells. So the cytoplasm is also may contain structure like mesosome, chromatophores, and inclusion bodies. So mesosome are the special structure presented inside the cytoplasm, and these are actually the integration of the plasma membrane into the cell in the form of vesicles, tubules, and laminate. And the mesosome, its exact function is not known, but believed to be involved the formation of the cell, replication, and distribution of the chromosomes. So let us proceed to the next structure called chromatophores. These are color bodies they found in photosynthetic bacteria and cyanobacteria. They contain different types of pigment, the bacteriochlorophyll, bacteriopapatin, and carotenoids. So the chromatophores is these are the color bodies. Minsan nakikita natin to sa tubig. 'Di ba minsan may nakikita tayong green. So that's the bacteria na nag-present ng colors. So we are coming to the inclusion body. The inclusion body, they are storage granule inside the bacteria present in the cytoplasm. There's two types actually. The first one called as organic inclusion and the next one is called as inorganic inclusion. The organic inclusion includes the synovial granule, starch granule, and glycogen granules. The synovial granules is used as a nitrogen and possibly carbon storage compound, and the starch granule is used as energy source. So let us proceed. The inorganic inclusion includes the phosphate and sulfur granule. So the cytoplasm bacterial cell is where the function for cell expansion, growth, and replication are carried out in the cytoplasm of the cell, and it is also support and suspend organelles and cellular molecules. The cytoplasm helps to move materials such as hormones around the cell and also dissolve the cellular waste. So the next parts will be discussed by Miss Naila Nabadtog.
So, the next part of prokaryotic cell is ribosomes. Ribosomes, it is a part of prokaryotic cell that are made up of protein and RNA. Ribosomes is the site where protein is synthesized. So, ribosomes is a very complex and amazing machine that we have within our cell. They are freely floating in cytoplasm of the cell. It is synthesized protein to be used within the cell. Or they can be attached to the plasma membrane and they are called plasma membrane associated ribosomes. So in this case, they make protein that will reside in the cell envelope or get transported outside the cell. Ribosomes is the smallest compared to eukaryotic cell. It is a organelle being like tiny organ. Ribosomes are composed of RNA and protein that form a factory for protein synthesis in cell. Ribosomes make this protein first. Messenger RNA or mRNA that has been created at nucleus travels to the ribosomes. Next, transfer RNA or tRNA travels to the mRNA. tRNA has amino acid on one end. tRNA reads the mRNA and the string of amino acid are put together in the correct order. And their function is to read RNA and synthesize protein. Our skin are made of protein. So some protein help with digestion, help with muscle contraction, and helps carry oxygen around our body. So ribosomes have two major subunits simply called large subunit and small subunit. Both subunits contain protein and RNA. The RNA in ribosomes is called ribosomal RNA or rRNA for short. So, the next part of prokaryotic cell is from the Latin word pilus, and the plural of pilus is pilae. It is a hair-like appendage that functions in adhesion or attached to the surface of bacterial cell, meaning it is a long, fewer, and thicker tubular outgrowth. To understand further, let's take a look at this picture. So, you can see some outgrowth, yellow color outgrowth, and two big red color outgrowth. Gaya ng sabi ko kanina, phyllos is a long, fewer, and thicker outgrowth. So, our phyllos is the red color one. They develop in response to F+ or fertility factor, and it is mostly in case of gram-negative bacteria. Additionally, phyllos or phyli are made of protein, which is phyllin protein. It is refers to a class of fibrous protein that are found in phyllos structure in a bacteria. So, sex phyli is a kind of phyli that have bacterial conjugation with the swap of DNA and another. So, sex phyli are genetically determined by sex factor or to conjugative plasmid and required for bacterial mating. Also, some bacterial viruses attach specifically to receptors on sex phyli at the start of their reproductive cycle. And their function is helpful in attaching to the recipient cell and forming the conjugation tube. In a typical donor, they can have about 1 to 4 phyli in a particular bacterial cell. So the most important function is helping the conjugation by forming the conjugation tube. Overall, phyli which are longer outgrowth structure and fewer in number. So, the last part of prokaryotic cell will be explained by Miss Sarah Ibrahim.
So good morning, ma'am, and good morning, classmates. Today, I am the last one who report or discuss the last part of the prokaryotic cell. So at this point in time, I will be able to discuss you the functions, structures, and arrangement of the flagellum. So let's begin with flagellum. Do you know what is flagellum is? I think hindi. So, ngayon, aalamin natin kung ano yung flagellum at kung ano yung role niya into prokaryotic cell. So, what is flagellum? Flagellum is facilitate the movement of bacteria. It is the long structure of the form of a whip. Yes. So, ang flagellum is a hair-like that allows a cell to move. They driven and work with rotarity movement. So, what is the function of flagellum? The function of flagellum is help in the locomotion of the cell. Yes, the purpose of flagellum into prokaryotic cell is very important. Kasi siya yung reason or siya yung way kung bakit gumagalaw ang bacteria. Yes, so it is important to know all of you that the role of flagellum is extremely important. Kasi if locomotions did not occur, these cells would go extinct. Yes. So, as you can see on the picture, ang flagellum is siya yung nakatusok na mahaba dyan sa bacteria. Ito, o yan. Yan ang flagellum. Siya yung pinakamahaba. And let's move on to the structure of flagellum. And flagella has a 3 basic structure, which is a basal body, hook, and filament. So, I will be discussing first the basal body. So, what is basal body? Basal body is a structurally complex part of the flagellum, and it is the only part of the flagellum that is inside the cell wall. Yes, ang basal body is siya yung sa pinakababa ng parte ng flagellum. Ito, yan siya. Yan. Siya yung sa pinakababa. And the main function of this into flagellum is siya yung the one that moves the rotarity motor, which allows the flagellum to move. So, yun yung functions ng basal body into flagellum. Yes. So, let's move on to wait lang. Basal body pala is merong 4 rings, which is ang L ring, T ring, S ring, and M ring. So, ang L and P-ring is located siya sa cell wall. And ang P-ring and M-ring is located naman siya or naka-attach siya sa plasma membrane. Yes. So, let's move on to the hook. So, what is hook? Hook is connected to basal body and filament. Yes, so as you can see in the picture, ang basal body is ito naman siya. Siya yung sa palagitnaan ng filament at basal body. And siya din yung pinaka-shorted structure ng flagellum. So what is the main function of hook? The main function of hook is to transmit the torque generated by the basal body into the filament. Yes. So, let's move on naman to filament. So, what is filament? Filament is hollow center and lengthier than the bacterial cell. Yes. Yan siya yung pinakamahaba sa parte ng flagellum at siya din yung gumagalaw. Ito siya, yan. So, sorry. Yan. So, what is the main function of filament into flagellum? Okay, so the main function of filament into flagellum is to act like a propeller and drive the bacteria. Yes, ang main function ng filament is to act like a propeller. Yes, yun yung role niya. So, for example nito is, di ba yung boat? Boat has a propeller, di ba? So, imagine kapag ang boat is nasira or hindi gumagalaw yung propeller, is hindi makakapunta sa patutunguhan niya. Diba? So, ganun din yung bacteria. Kapag wala ang flagellum, is hindi rin siya makakagalaw at hindi rin siya makakapunta sa paroroonan niya. Yes. So, yun ang functions ng flagellum into prokaryotic cell at yun din naman yung function ng filament into flagellum. So, yan yun siya. So, let's move on to the flagella arrangement. So, our flagella has a 4 arrangement, which is monotrichous, antitrichous, and peritrichous. So, ang monotrichous is ito yung ano tawag dito? Ito yung bacteria has a single. Yes, di ba yung prokaryotic cell has a single? I know. Basta, ang monotrichous, ito yung bacteria na merong single na flagellum sa dulo. Yes, yan yun siya. And ang lophotrichous is yan naman yung bacteria which is merong flagellum sa pagitan. Which is sa side and right is meron siyang flagellum. And ang amphitrichous is ito naman yung flagellum na, ito naman yung bacteria na merong isang grupo ng flagellum sa dulo at sa dulo din ng flagellum. So, meron silang grupo. And ang peritrichous is ito yung flagellum, ito yung bacteria na napapaligiran lahat-lahat ng flagellum. So, ito siya. Yan, ito. Yan. So, yan yung 4 na arrangement ng bacterium. Ito yung isa, then ayan yung grupo, then meron naman sa pagitan, and ito yung sa last part. Yan yung maraming flagellum na nakapalibot sa bacteria. Yes. Okay, now let us proceed to our quick review for the 9 parts of the prokaryotic cell. So, what is the first one? The first one is capsule. The second one is cell wall, cell membrane or plasma membrane, flagellum or flagella, phyllos or phyli, nucleus, plasmid, cytoplasm, and ribosome. So now, so that is the 9 parts of the prokaryotic cell. So now let us listen to the discussion of Miss Ate Ella Joy Pascual.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ma'am Nita. I am Ella Joy Pascual, and I will be discussing the overall function of a prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotes and human lives in symbiosis, which means two different species living together in a close association or a close environment. These prokaryotes and human relationship can be both mutual or toxic. So prokaryotes lives in our body and it is everywhere. If you look, you find it in every object around you. One reason that bacteria is ubiquitous because it multiplies rapidly. So how does prokaryotes invade the system of the body? Let me elaborate. So prokaryotic cell is the process by which a cell divides into two or more cells, and this process is called binary fission. It is a simpler process than some process that is found in eukaryotic cells. So prokaryotes is differ from eukaryotic due to the lack of nucleus and cell organelles. So it has no nucleus and cell organelles. Typically, their chromosomes consist of a single loop of DNA, and that circle molecule replicates and attaches each copy to different parts of a cell membrane, in which the cell grows twice its size and the membrane pinches in the middle, and here comes the binary fission. So what is the binary fission? It is illustrated at the screen. So what is binary fission? This is the prokaryote forming asexual reproduction after the cytoplasm divides each daughter cell, synthesizing a new cell wall, creating two identical cells, resulting the copy of the original cell. So it is illustrated here. Parent cell, which is the mother, that performs the asexual reproduction, and the DNA duplicating the mother, duplicating itself, nahahati sa gitna. And cytoplasms divide. Ayan na siya, nahahati na siya, and then it became a two daughter cell. So next, this is a short process or a short clip of how it replicates, how it divides, and how it multiplies. Okay, next. So as I said, prokaryotes multiply rapidly because of their small size, and it only takes about a short time to replicate it. With high surface area of volume ratio, they absorb nutrients quickly. Like bacterium can divide every 20 minutes in optimum conditions depending on the environment that bacteria allows colonization. So this is the process of how it colonizes in a system or in the body, how the bacteria invade the system. In just 20 minutes, 40 minutes, nag-multiply. So next, scientists discover that prokaryotes can be beneficial to both parties. Ito na yung sinabi ko sa introduction kanina. It can be mutual relationship or a toxic relationship. So the scientists discovered a mutual relationship between bacteria and human, and it is called mutualistic bacteria that are found in many parts of the body like skin, nasal cavity, ears, vagina, stomach, and intestine. So these bacteria ward off disease-causing organisms by competing for space and nutrients inside of the body, training the immune system to be ready when our body is attacked, and it is supplying nutrients and vitamins to the body that helps us become less susceptible to any kinds of illness or diseases. So it protects us. So one of the examples of this discoveries of the scientists is antibiotics. So what is antibiotics? Are you familiar with that? It is a medicine, a remedy to intake when you have skin inflammation or pain in any parts of your body. That is the remedy or the medicine that scientists discovered. It is a bacteria. Here is the illustration on how antibiotics works in our system. So that is the bacteria and the antibiotic. It wards off disease-causing organisms, foreign bacteria in our body. So, balik tayo. So, prokaryotes are not just essential in the human body, it is also essential in the environment. It maintains every aspect of the ecological balance living in the world. It can be decomposers, producers, nitrogen fixers, and driving new ecosystems. So bacteria makes new ecosystems. Some are which man-made and some are which natural. So prokaryotes has been on Earth long before multicellular life appeared because, as it said kanina sa discussion, if nakinig kayo, prokaryotic cell is a unicellular type of cell. So let's proceed to another reporter. The benefits of the prokaryotes to be discussed by Ms. Georgiana M. Sally.
Thank you, Miss Ella. So, the question is the prokaryote cells is a good bacteria? The answer is yes. Kasi diba, when we say bacteria, the first thing that comes in our mind is dirty siya or something na makakasira siya sa atin. But no, because there is a lot of benefits that this bacteria can give or help to us. So what are those benefits? As you can see on our slides, those are the representative of a good bacteria and those are the example of prokaryotic cells. So first is the bifidobacteria. So bifidobacteria can be found on our intestine or in our stomach. So meaning to say, if we have this kind of bacteria, those diarrhea, constipation, and other intestinal disorders can help us to avoid nor prevent it. Kasi guys, have you experienced that after you ate meats is sumasakit yung tiyan natin and to the point na nagtatai na tayo? Some say yes and some say no. It's because sa napag-aralan natin previously is sa mga meats, meron talaga yung possible na magkaroon ng harmful bacteria or what we call pathogenic bacteria. So meaning to say, if your body has lack of this bacteria, there is a possible na madali ka lang kapitan ng sakit because the work of this bacteria is, or the prokaryotic cells, both bifidobacteria and lactic acid bacteria, is to fight against bad bacteria na pwede nating makuha sa ating mga kinakain. So, the next question is, what is bifidobacteria used for? So, as I've said kanina, they are commonly used for diarrhea, including ulcerative colitis, constipation, or sa madaling salita, yung sinasabi nilang IBS or irritable bowel syndrome. So, bifidobacteria and lactic acid bacteria is both prebiotic and probiotic. So, when we say prebiotic, is a specialized plant fiber that acts as a food for the good bacteria. And then probiotic is living strains of bacteria that can add to the population of a good bacteria in our digestive system. So, the example of prebiotic is berries, apple, or other plants that can help to clean our or to fight against the bad bacteria. And then probiotic naman is yung yogurt, Yakult, and milk kefir. So as you can see on our slides, those inside of open and close parentheses is the example of bifidobacteria. So first is adolescentes. So when you say adolescentes, we are talking about the growth. So in infant, the role of this bacteria is preventing the loss of nutrients by suppressing the growth of competing bacteria in the intestinal tract. So, the next is animalis. So, ito na siya yung mga milk or fermented milk na nakukuha natin sa baka. So, na madalas nakikita natin ito sa mga gatas na iniinom ng mga infants that possible na makatulong sa growth ng isang bata. And then next is bifidobacteria bifidum. Bifidum is one of the most common probiotic bacteria that can be found in the body of mammals, including humans, that can help to fight off bad organism that might causes diseases. So actually lahat sila is a good bacteria which can help to fight against bad bacteria. The next is Bifidobacteria breve. So breve is used for the prevention of side infections in preterm newborn and during antibiotics treatments or chemotherapy. So what are those possible infections? That is pneumonia, blood infection, urinary tract infection, and infection of the membrane surrounding the brain. So by means of that bacteria, it can help to prevent those infections. And then the next is, or the last one is Bifidobacteria longum. So, longum is a multifunctional probiotic that is effective in alleviating gastrointestinal, immunological, as well as infectious diseases, and improve the intestinal environment. So, those are the species that belong to the genus Bifidobacterium. So, Bifidobacteria and lactic acid bacteria is mostly the same. It can break down our body waste and help in the absorption of various minerals and vitamins during the digestive process. And the work of them are they are both fight against bad bacteria, and they are both beneficial to our or to human health. But the one thing that difference between them is Bifidobacteria is a microorganism that have adapted to live in the human intestinal tract, while lactic acid bacteria is metabolize sugar to produce lactic acid. So, we have illustration to show the benefits of Bifidobacterium. So, the first picture, it can help us to prevent eczema in infants. So, when we say eczema, that is skin diseases like rashes, chickenpox, and others. And then the next is it can help us to decreases risk of colon cancer. And then the next is reduces risk of gastrointestinal infections, improves diarrhea and constipation, improve blood availability of certain minerals, and boost immunity. So the next is the illustration of lactic acid bacteria. So as you can see, those are the example of fermented foods that can help us to avoid or to prevent hypertension, anti-diabetic, microbiota modulation, immunomodulation, and it can help us to lower our cholesterol. And so those are the benefits of prokaryotic cells. So the next is the importance of the prokaryotic cells, but this importance is to be discussed to us by Norhata Disalungan.
So let's proceed to the importance of prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are important to all life. They are also important for many metabolic processes or produce nutrients in the digestive tracts of human and other animals. The first life on Earth came in the form of prokaryotic cell. For 2 billion years, prokaryotic cells were the only living things on Earth and spread to almost every corner of the planet. Today, there are still most abundant and diverse organisms on Earth, and more prokaryotes are found in one handful of cells than all the humans that have ever existed. Prokaryotes play a critical role in the recycling of nutrients by decomposing dead organisms. Prokaryotes live in digestive systems of animals.
Quick review. What system of the body does prokaryotic protect? this topic already discussed by Ella earlier. So, after all, scientists has discovered a way to turn bacteria into good bacteria. The immune system enters because naturally the human body has multiple types of bacteria. The human body becomes immune to the bacteria. So, the answer is immune system. So, we have means two different species in close association of environment. Just like Ella discussed earlier, she said that when two different species live in close association, simple means living together called symbiosis. What is symbiosis? It refers to relationship between organisms of different species that choose intimate association with each other. How quickly can bacteria divide and affect a certain area? Just like Ella present, 20 minutes, because bacteria dividing every 20 minutes could produce a billion of bacteria a day. Why cells considered the basic unit of life? We already discussed this in our anatomy subject, so kaya may mga idea na rin tayo. Why cells is basic unit of life? Because human body is composed of trillions of cells, all with their own function. Unit of life, all the living organisms are made of cells, and all the functions that take place inside the body of organism are performed by cells. Two the main types of prokaryotic cells. We have archaea and bacteria. Archaea, most of the archaea are found in the extreme environment. The bacteria, most of the bacteria in nature exists as biofilm population. Trivia, paano nga ba na-discover ang cells? So, si Robert Hooke, it all happened when he using his microscope at kumuha siya ng maliit na cork, and nakita niya na parang may mga maliit na individual na square na tinawag niyang cells. At si Robert Hooke ay di niya maintindihan kung bakit may mga room or square siyang nakikita sa isang microscope, sa isang cork. Si Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, he says that mas sigitan pa yung magnification ng isang microscope para magkita closely. So, tinignan niya naman kung ang mga organism, kung may mga cells ba ito, at siya rin ang unang naka-observe ng bacteria at protozoa. Ito yung mga one-cells organism or animal cells. Si Virchow, nang sabi niya naman is nagbigay siya ng important details about cells, na ang cells ay galing sa previous cells na nag-exist na daan. Kumbaga may mga lolo at lola silang cells na pinagmulan ng mga bagong cells ngayon.